Basics of Horoscope Interpretations Part 1. One of the most fundamental concepts in Vedic astrology is understanding that Grahas, planets, are not monolithic. They function through multiple identities depending on context. The most basic division classifies planets as either natural benefics or natural malefics, known respectively as Nisargika Shubha Grahas and Nisargika Papa Grahas. This distinction forms the very foundation of chart analysis, influencing how planets express their energies in a birth chart. However, even this classification is not absolute and must be interpreted with nuance and depth. Natural benefics are those grahas that, by their inherent nature, tend to support, uplift, and harmonize life experiences. Jupiter, the guru or teacher among the planets, represents expansion, wisdom, and grace. Venus, the karaka of love, art, and pleasure, brings charm, beauty, and comfort. The moon, when bright, from the 8th Tithi to the full moon, nourishes the mind, emotions, and social bonds. Mercury, when unafflicted and conjoined with benefics, lends clarity, intellect, and adaptability. These planets are generally favorable and enhance positive outcomes when they are placed well in a chart. On the other side are the natural malefics, planets that, by default, create resistance, pressure, and karmic friction. Saturn represents delay, detachment, and discipline through hardship. Mars brings intensity, aggression, and conflict when misaligned. Rahu and Ketu, the shadowy lunar nodes, create illusions, disruptions, and karmic turbulence. The moon, when dark or weak from new moon to the 7th Tithi, becomes a source of emotional instability. Mercury, too, can become malefic when heavily aspected by malefics or in conjunction with them. These planets are not bad, but serve the function of accelerating soul evolution through challenge. This classification is only a starting point. In actual chart analysis, the same planet can behave differently depending on sign, house, dignity, and conjunctions. For example, Saturn as a natural malefic can still become a yoga karaka, a giver of great fortune, for Taurus or Libra ascendants because of its ownership of angular and trinal houses. Similarly, Mars, though aggressive, can support ambition and courage when positioned strongly and favorably. Understanding the natural temperament of a graha is only the first step. Its functional role must also be assessed. When analyzing planetary impact, it is also essential to consider the state of the graha, its strength, Shadbala, mood or condition, Avastha, directional strength, Digbala, and its placement in divisional charts like the Navamsha, D9. A benefic placed in a hostile sign or hemmed between malefics may lose its capacity to support the native. Conversely, a malefic planet like Mars, when exalted and aspected by Jupiter, may bring bold leadership and disciplined energy. The essence of true interpretation lies in assessing interaction, not isolation. These identities also influence how planets behave during their Mahadasha and Antardasha periods. For instance, the dasha of a natural benefic like Venus may generally be positive, but if Venus is the lord of the 6th or 8th house, its period might activate challenges in relationships, health, or finance. On the contrary, a natural malefic like Saturn may offer long-term gains if it rules beneficial houses and is strongly placed. Here we begin to understand that benefic and malefic labels are directional tools, not predictive absolutes. Another layer involves how natural benefics and malefics express themselves through specific bhavas, houses. Natural benefics tend to uplift the houses they occupy, but may become passive if placed in houses where action or aggression is needed. Natural malefics, when placed in upachaya houses like the 3rd, 6th, or 11th, can actually produce excellent results over time through struggle and effort. For example, Mars in the 6th house often brings the power to defeat enemies and overcome obstacles. This shows the need to go beyond surface-level definitions. In today's context, especially for students and astrologers interpreting charts in counseling settings, it's vital to understand that no planet is purely good or bad. The Grahas are cosmic forces, each with a role to play in the evolution of consciousness. Natural benefics tend to soothe and nurture, while malefics provoke growth through friction. Both are needed. Life without challenges is stagnant, and growth without grace becomes unbearable. This balance is the key to decoding the karma indicated in a birth chart. Therefore, as you begin your journey through Vedic astrology, remember that the first step is understanding a planet's natural nature, But never stop there. The real power of chart interpretation comes when you synthesize nature with function, dignity with context, and align the timeless logic of the Grahas with the lived reality of the native. This is the foundational lens through which all higher levels of astrological wisdom are built. Basics of Horoscope Interpretations, Part 2. To truly understand how natural benefics and malefics function in real charts, let's begin with Jupiter. As a natural benefic, Jupiter is known for its expansive and protective qualities. In a Sagittarius ascendant chart, Jupiter rules both the first and fourth houses, making it not only a natural benefic, but also a functional benefic. If placed in the 10th house in Virgo, Jupiter supports a career in teaching, law, or counseling. However, if Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn and placed in the second house, house of speech and finance, it may lead to financial misjudgments, overpromising, or excessive idealism in family matters, despite its benefic nature. Venus, another natural benefic, can behave quite differently based on ascendant. For Cancer Lagna, Venus rules the 4th and 11th houses, both associated with comfort and gains. If placed in the 6th house, it can bring relationship struggles or a tendency to overindulge in sensual pleasures. But the same Venus placed in the 10th in Aries, a neutral sign for Venus, and aspected by Jupiter can give rise to a successful career in design, fashion, or finance. So Venus's benefic nature doesn't guarantee harmony. It must be supported by placement and aspect. Now consider Saturn, a natural malefic often feared in beginner astrology. In a Libra ascendant chart, Saturn rules the 4th and 5th houses, making it a yoga karaka. If Saturn is exalted in Libra and placed in the 1st house, it brings maturity, responsibility, and leadership. But for a Leo ascendant, where Saturn rules the 6th and 7th houses, it can create strain in relationships and lead to delays in marriage, especially if placed in the 7th house and aspected by Rahu. This illustrates the principle that a malefic planet placed well can uplift, while a benefic planet poorly placed can disappoint. Let's take Mars as another example. For Aries ascendant, Mars rules the 1st and 8th houses. If Mars is placed in the 10th house in Capricorn, its sign of exaltation, it creates Ruchaka yoga, signifying courage, technical skill, and authority. However, for a Virgo ascendant, Mars rules the 3rd and 8th, two traditionally malefic houses. If Mars is placed in the 7th house in Pisces, it may bring confrontations in partnerships, impulsiveness in decision-making, or sexual tension in marriage. Thus, contextual dignity transforms the raw planetary energy. Mercury, though typically classified as a neutral benefic, shows the importance of affliction. For Gemini Lagna, Mercury is the Lagna Lord and 4th Lord, very positive roles. If Mercury is in Virgo, its exaltation sign, in the 4th house, it supports sharp intellect, strong communication, and academic success. But for Pisces Lagna, Mercury rules the 4th and 7th and is considered a Maraka, death-inflicting planet. If Mercury is combust or hemmed between malefics in the 7th house, it may lead to marital miscommunication, deceit, or instability. Mercury's adaptability is a double-edged sword. It amplifies whatever influences surround it. Rahu and Ketu, the shadow planets, always function based on sign and house placement, and the planets they conjoin. Rahu in the 2nd house may amplify wealth-seeking and manipulative speech if conjoined Mars, but bring persuasive communication if aspected by Jupiter. Ketu in the 5th can cause disinterest in children or education, but may also gift occult insight, especially if in Scorpio or Pisces. These nodes require subtle psychological interpretation, as they work through amplification, Rahu, and detachment, Ketu, rarely offering direct or predictable outcomes. The moon illustrates how lunar phases change interpretation. A waxing moon, Shukla Paksha, is considered benefic, while a waning moon, Krishna Paksha, becomes weak and sensitive. A full moon in the 11th house can bless the native with emotional intelligence and social success, while a dark moon in the 6th may cause emotional stress, digestive issues, or fear-based reactions to conflict. The moon's benefic or malefic nature shifts not only by sign and house, but also by tithai, phase, and planetary aspects. Even the sun, often ambiguously labeled, acts as a natural malefic due to its scorching nature. For Leo ascendant, the sun rules the 1st house and thus becomes extremely important. If well placed in the 10th in Taurus and aspected by Jupiter, it grants leadership and fame. But in the 12th house with no support, the same sun may create ego issues, isolation, or loss of vitality. Though it represents soul and self, when afflicted, it may burn the very areas it seeks to illuminate. Through these examples, it becomes clear, no graha can be judged in isolation. Each must be evaluated through a multi-layered approach considering nature, function, placement, aspects, strength, and surrounding grahas. Only then can an astrologer move from generic readings to precision-based insights, giving clients not just information, but transformation. Would you like to continue with Part 3, exploring Functional Benefics and Malefics by Lagna? Basics of Horoscope Interpretations, Part 4, Functional Benefics, Malefics, Tatkalika Shubha and Papa Grahas. In Vedic astrology, the concept of functional benefics and malefics, Tatkalika Shubha Grahas and Tatkalika Papa Grahas, offers a more personalized and accurate understanding of how planets operate in an individual's chart. Unlike their fixed natural nature, a planet's functional role is determined by the houses it rules from the ascendant. A planet that is naturally malefic can function benefically, and a natural benefic can behave malefically depending on its ownership of trikona, 1st, 5th, 9th, or dusthana, 6th, 8th, 12th houses. This makes functional nature one of the most critical interpretive lenses in Jyotish. Take Saturn as the first example. Saturn is a natural malefic, but it becomes a functional benefic for Taurus and Libra ascendants. For Taurus Lagna, Saturn rules the 9th and 10th houses, Trikona and Kendra, which makes it a Raja Yoga Karaka. When placed in Libra in the 6th house, exalted and unafflicted, it can bring career stability, structured thinking, and fatherly guidance. But the same Saturn for Aries ascendant, where it rules the 10th and 11th, becomes a functional malefic. If placed in the 1st house in Aries, its debilitation sign, it may bring self-doubt, health issues, or reputation problems unless mitigated by Jupiter's aspect or Nichabanga. Mars, a natural malefic, also flips roles based on house rulership. For Cancer ascendant, Mars rules the 5th and 10th houses, again forming a Yoga Karaka. Even though Mars is fiery and aggressive, when placed in the 9th house in Pisces or the 4th in Libra with Venus, it can elevate the native through courage, dharmic action, and career breakthroughs. In contrast, for Virgo ascendant, Mars rules the 3rd and 8th houses, both considered malefic. If Mars is placed in the 7th house and afflicted by Rahu, it can bring marital discord, aggression, or short-tempered communication, despite being strong in its own sign, Scorpio. Jupiter, widely known as the most sattvic benefic, doesn't always function favorably. For Libra ascendant, Jupiter rules the 3rd and 6th houses, both considered dasthanas and upachaya. Even though Jupiter may be strong by sign, say in Sagittarius in the 3rd, its dasha may bring sibling disputes, service-related karmas, or overwork-related stress. On the flip side, for Sagittarius ascendant, Jupiter is not just the Lagna lord, but also rules the 4th, making it extremely beneficial. Placed in the 1st house or 10th, it can give immense stability, dharma-driven personality, and academic success. Let's look at Venus, a natural benefic, but for Virgo ascendant, Venus rules the 2nd and 9th houses. Although the 9th is a trine, Venus is the enemy of Mercury, Virgo's Lagna lord. If Venus is placed in the 12th house in Leo, and if it's combust, it can result in wasteful spending, troubles in family values, or distorted moral judgment. But for Capricorn ascendant, Venus rules the 5th and 10th, both strong houses, making it a functional benefic. In this case, Venus in the 11th house in Scorpio can attract success in career, gains from women, and artistic partnerships, even if it's not in its favorite sign. Mercury, often underestimated in this context, shifts its functional role depending on Lagna. For Aquarius ascendant, Mercury rules the 5th and 8th houses, a mix of good and bad. If placed in the 6th house and aspected by Saturn, Mercury may bring intellectual delays or health issues related to the nervous system. But for Gemini ascendant, Mercury is the Lagna and 4th lord. If placed in the 5th house in Libra with Jupiter's aspect, it supports emotional intelligence, property gains, and academic excellence, proving that even the same graha can shift roles dramatically. Moon, a natural benefic, can also act as a functional malefic. For Capricorn ascendant, Moon rules the 7th house. While this isn't a dasthana, the Moon's fluctuating nature can cause instability in relationships, especially when placed in the 6th or 8th. On the other hand, for Cancer ascendant, the Moon is the Lagna lord and behaves very favorably. Even if placed in the 12th, it often supports introspection, imagination, and oversees opportunities when in strong dignity or favorable nakshatra. Even Rahu and Ketu, though shadowy malefics, can act functionally neutral or even benefic when well placed. For example, Rahu in the 10th house, for Virgo ascendant, if placed in Gemini and aspected by Mercury, can bring technological innovation and career growth. For Scorpio ascendant, Ketu in the 2nd house can bring spiritual speech, detachment from material obsession, and mystical insight into lineage-based karma, especially when Jupiter is strong in the 9th. Ultimately, understanding functional benefics and malefics requires a synthesis of 3 factors: house ownership, planetary dignity, and ascendant dynamics. You must always ask, does this planet support or obstruct the life path of the native? Once you analyze that through rulership and strength, you'll begin to see why labeling a planet purely based on its natural nature is not enough. In Part 5, we'll apply this logic to all 12 ascendants and break down their functional benefics and malefics systematically. Would you like to continue with that next? Basics of Horoscope Interpretations, Part 3. Let's now explore further variations in how natural benefics and malefics behave across different ascendants, house lordships, and dignities, demonstrating why planetary interpretation is always contextual and individualized. Starting with Jupiter, considered the most sattvic and auspicious planet, its function shifts dramatically with the Lagna. For Cancer ascendant, Jupiter becomes the 6th and 9th lord. Despite its benefic nature, its ownership of the 6th house, a dasthana, means that if Jupiter is weak or afflicted, it may indicate chronic health issues or enemies disguised as well-wishers. However, the same Jupiter in exaltation in Cancer 1st house can create powerful healing or spiritual leadership tendencies when combined with a strong dasha. In contrast, Venus, though a natural benefic, can have complex results for Virgo ascendant. Venus rules both the 2nd and 9th houses, which sounds promising, but Venus is the enemy of Mercury, the Lagna lord, and often gets combust when near the sun. A combust Venus placed in the 10th house may create work-life imbalance or complications in love life, becoming entangled with public reputation. However, if Venus is exalted in Pisces in the 7th house and aspected by Jupiter, it creates Malavya yoga, bestowing charm, financial blessings, and romantic harmony. These variations illustrate how dignity and relational dynamics override natural labels. Mars, being a natural malefic, is classically associated with aggression and violence, but when functional, it can become a powerful ally. For Leo ascendant, Mars rules the 4th and 9th houses, both Kendra and Trikona, making it a yoga karaka. If placed in Capricorn in the 6th, its exaltation sign, Mars gives relentless drive, courage, and the power to overcome enemies, debts, and disease. But the same Mars, if placed in Cancer, its debilitation sign, in the 12th house for a Gemini ascendant, may create sleep disorders, anger repression, or conflict in foreign lands. Thus, house ownership and sign placement transform Mars from a troublemaker into a disciplined warrior, or vice versa. Saturn, too, shows wide variation. For Libra ascendant, it rules the 4th and 5th, making it one of the few Lagna types where Saturn acts as a double benefic. A strong Saturn in Libra, exalted in the 1st house, can indicate a calm, composed, strategic personality with excellent emotional discipline. But for Aries ascendant, Saturn becomes 10th and 11th lord, seemingly favorable. But if it is debilitated in Aries and the Lagna and aspected by Rahu, it can bring depression, self-doubt, or rigid identity struggles, despite success in career or gains. The key here is how well the planet integrates with the Lagna lord and whether it supports or suppresses vitality. The moon, though generally a benefic, becomes problematic under certain conditions. For Scorpio ascendant, the moon is the 9th lord, a very auspicious house, but is debilitated in Scorpio. If the moon is placed in the 1st house, there may be emotional instability, over-reliance on luck, or issues with the father figure unless supported by Jupiter's aspect or Navamsha strength. For Aquarius ascendant, the moon rules the 6th house, Adasthana. Even if full and strong, moon dasha may bring health fluctuations, litigation, or emotionally charged conflicts during its period. Mercury, when afflicted, behaves sharply differently from its benefic nature. For Sagittarius ascendant, it rules the 7th and 10th houses, important for career and partnership. But Mercury is not friendly with Jupiter, the Lagna lord. If Mercury is placed in the 6th house with Saturn and Rahu, it can lead to anxiety, nervous issues, workplace manipulation, or communication blocks. The same Mercury, if placed in Gemini, its own sign, in the 7th house for a Virgo ascendant, gives excellent business acumen and negotiation skills, especially when aspected by Venus or Jupiter. Mercury adapts to its environment, making it the most context-sensitive graha in interpretation. Rahu and Ketu, though always malefic by nature, can yield extraordinary results in certain positions. For instance, Rahu in the 10th house for Capricorn ascendant in Taurus can bring international fame, career breakthroughs in technology or media, and magnetic leadership skills. However, if Rahu is in the 4th with Mars and aspected by Saturn, it may bring home instability, conflict with the mother, or suppressed anger rooted in childhood trauma. Ketu, when placed in the 12th house in Pisces or Sagittarius, can create deep spiritual insight, dreams, and psychic gifts. But when in the 7th with Venus for Libra Lagna, it may lead to non-traditional or spiritually disconnected relationships. Even Sun, a natural malefic and karaka for the soul, Atma, behaves differently in each chart. For Aries ascendant, the Sun rules the 5th house, a Dharma Bhava, so it supports creativity, intelligence, and children. If exalted in Aries in the 1st house, it can indicate a charismatic leader with a strong ego. For Capricorn ascendant, the Sun rules the 8th house, a house of death, transformation, and secrets. Placed in the 12th house in Sagittarius and afflicted, it may show weak immunity, isolation, or loss of status. These contrasts show that even the same planet can be a protector or a challenger depending on the karmic terrain it occupies. In conclusion, planetary nature, benefic malefic, sets the tone, but the outcome depends on context, ascendant, house ownership, dignity, aspects, and strength. No planet should be assumed helpful or harmful without assessing its full environment. Would you like to move to Part 4, Functional Benefics and Malefics by Ascendant, for deeper practical application?